Hello, everyone, and welcome to our show. I'm Mike.
And I'm Angeline.
Fun facts. Angeline, it's time for some fun facts.
Woohoo!
Isn't this great? Do you like facts?
I do, actually.
Do you like fun?
No, I like to be bored. Of course I love fun.
Well, then your head is going to explode because we have both fun and facts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, these are interesting facts quite often. And they're fun because, hey, who knows? You might win a quiz, you might answer the right answer on a test, or you can just impress your friends with how amazingly smart you are. And then they'll make fun of you for being a nerd.
Will they?
Well, I don't know. They shouldn't, but sometimes they might. But still, it's fun to learn facts, especially when the facts are fun. Yes. Today we're going to be talking about taking pictures. Are you a picture taker?
No.
No, a photographer? You don't really do that much?
Well, I like to take photos of certain things.
What
Maybe scenery?
Oh, okay.
Like beaches, mountains. I am not photogenic, so I don't like getting my picture taken.
Photogenic meaning you always naturally just look good in
awesome
pictures.
In pictures.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't. I'd put myself in that category too. How about taking the pictures then? Are you keen to do that?
Taking, yeah. Scenery.
It's okay. Yeah, but it's not
really
a big
good at
hobby.
It. No, it's not. What about you?
I've played around with a few cameras in my day, but no, I don't take a lot of pictures.
No.
I find everyone else takes pictures these days with their phones, so I don't feel a great need to. But sometimes I get back from a holiday and I say to myself, I should have taken more pictures, but you know what? I have a memory.
Yeah, and you won't forget.
I can remember what things look like, so I don't always feel like I have to. But anyways, with Instagram, with Snapchat, lots of people like to take pictures. And of course, it's a great hobby too. So let's find out about some fun facts about taking pictures.
Reading. Fun facts. Today, we readily smile or pose in silly ways for the camera, but this was not always the case. In the 19th and early 20th century, people often appeared very solemn in photos. But why? A. Because those people were more unhappy. B. Because of the cameras people used then. C. Because photographers used to ask people to frown. Your answer was picture perfect if you guessed B. Cameras in the 19th century had longer exposure times, which means they needed more light to record an image. As a result, these cameras took a greater amount of time to create a picture. Anything moving during this time, such as a person's body or expression, would come out blurry. Thus, many people didn't smile when they posed, as they thought a serious expression would be easier to hold. Another factor to the long faces in old photos was that people were used to sitting for painted portraits. These artworks were rarely of smiling faces. Many people thought photographs should look similar, and believed that smiling in pictures would make them look silly or foolish.
Okay, so the article begins with a sentence that kind of talks about how popular taking pictures or being in pictures is these days. It says, today, we readily smile or pose in silly ways for the camera, but this was not always the case. Okay, so today, meaning in modern times, not exactly today.
Like right now.
Not right now, but in modern times, in the times we live in, people do readily smile or pose in silly ways for the camera. If you pull out your camera, your phone, for a big group of friends, they'll all pose, they'll smile, they'll put their fingers under their face or make that V sign or whatever. And they do it readily. They do it willingly and quickly. You don't have to say, come on, please, pose for me. Please, just one picture. No, everyone's already in position when you pull the camera out. They know what's going on and they're happy to join in. But, as the article says, this was not always the case. This was not always true. If you went back to maybe your grandparents' time or earlier, you would find people had a very different reaction to having their picture taken.
Okay, so our article tells us a little bit more, gives us a little bit more information. In the 19th and early 20th century, people often appeared very solemn in photos. But why? First, let's take a look at the word century. A century is a period of 100 years. The 20th century is the period that began on January 1st, 1901 and ended on December 31st, 2000. So that means we're currently in the 21st century. So let's use century in an example sentence. The Coca-Cola Company has been around for over a century. That means the Coca-Cola Company has been around for over 100 years. Okay, so we also saw the word solemn. It's an adjective. If you have a solemn expression, it means that you are very serious and not happy, often because something very serious or bad has happened. You can also talk about a solemn occasion, which is important but very serious. For example, a funeral would be a solemn occasion.
Very, very interesting. So people, if you look at those old black and white pictures from World War I or times earlier than that, more than 100 years ago, people do look solemn. Why is that? Well, let's look at some of our choices for an answer. A, because those people were more unhappy. Maybe they were just unhappy people. I mean, if you think about it, that was a long time ago. People had other problems. They could die of disease more easily. Life was much harder. People worked much longer. Things like World War I would certainly make people solemn, sad, or serious. So is that why people just didn't have as much fun back then?
Could the answer be B, because of the cameras people used then? So maybe the camera didn't allow you to smile, or maybe if you smiled or showed your teeth, something weird would happen with the photo. That seems kind of possible, too.
Yeah, they didn't have cameras that had, they were big wooden boxes, and they used a flash of chemicals to make light. Very different from the cameras we have today. Or maybe it's answer C. It says because photographers, that's the people taking the picture, used to ask people to frown. Maybe it was the style back then to look serious. You know, taking your picture is a serious thing, and serious people don't smile. It's kind of true. In some cultures, if you smile, even today, people think you're kind of silly or you're not a very smart person,
not
right?
Serious
Different
person.
Cultures look at smiling in a different way, and a frown is kind of the opposite of a smile. When you're concerned or worried or unhappy about something, you might frown. Your eyebrows come down in the middle. You get some wrinkles maybe on your forehead, and you certainly wouldn't be smiling because you're frowning. You're having a worried or sort of concerned look. We have an example sentence here for frown. I frowned when I heard that the airplane would be delayed for 3 hours. I was very unhappy about that.
Okay, so it's time for us to reveal the answer.
Okay, A, B, or C?
Our article says your answer was picture perfect if you guessed B.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, so the phrase picture perfect is our shortcut for you for this unit. Let's take a short break to learn more about this phrase.
Shortcut for you.
The weather today is so beautiful.
Don't you think it's too hot? I'm melting.
I think this weather is picture perfect for the beach.
You want to take a picture right now? Isn't the sun too bright? You can barely open your eyes.
I do want to take a picture, but not right now. If something is picture perfect, it's completely perfect.
Oh, I see. Picture perfect means 非常完美的. Angeline, are you okay? You're sweating.
Oh, you might be right. It's so hot. I think I might faint.
I have a picture-perfect solution. I'll go buy us some ice cream.
I'll wait here for my picture-perfect ice cream.
Okay, so we're back in the article now, and yes, the answer was B, remember, because of the cameras people used then. That's why people didn't smile so much. They looked very solemn or very serious. Blame it on the cameras. Now, why? What was different about the cameras? It says cameras in the 19th century, so in the 1800s and early 1900s, very simple cameras. They had longer exposure times, which means they needed more light to record an image. As many of you, I'm sure, know, cameras work by sort of blinking, like your eyes will blink once, and you collect as much light in a very short time. That's called an exposure time. How long the camera lens is open, or the camera shutter is open. So back in the old days, they needed to get more light into the cameras because the cameras were much simpler, and if you didn't get the light, it would just come out black or completely white. You wouldn't get an image. An image is basically a picture. You wouldn't see anything. So basically, people had to sit there and pose and not move.
For quite a while.
For a few seconds at least, maybe even longer. And so holding a smile would maybe kind of hurt your cheeks.
You'd be
or
tired.
Something like that. Yeah, very, very interesting.
Yeah, we have an example sentence for the word image. The children stared at the colorful images on the computer screen.
Okay, colorful pictures, colorful shapes and forms. That's what an image would be. So as a result, back in the article, these cameras, these old cameras, took a greater amount of time to create a picture. So as a result, because of this, because of the old style, the simple cameras they had, they took a greater amount of time to create a picture or to make a picture.
We also see the phrase a greater amount of. When we put great and amount together, it means a large number of something. So we use amount of because time is uncountable, right? So if we were talking about people or a countable noun, then we would use number of. For example, a large number of people came to the festival last weekend. Anyway, back then, it took longer for cameras to take a picture.
That's right. The article says anything moving during this time, such as a person's body or expression, their face, smile on their face or something like that. So anything moving would come out blurry. If something's blurry, it's not clear. If you move when someone is taking a picture, then something that's moving will be blurry. If you try to take a picture of a race car or something like that, it could come out blurry because the car is moving too fast for the camera to capture a sharp or a clear image. If it's clear or sharp, it's not blurry. You can see all the shapes, all the lines of the object. If it's blurry, it looks like it's flashing past very, very quickly. So back in the old days, trying to get a clear picture of, for example, a horse running would have been very difficult. That horse would have been blurry because it's moving too fast. And the same thing would be true for the person's expression. Your expression, as I briefly mentioned, is the look on your face. If someone says, hey, you look happy, that's because you have a happy expression on your face. If someone says, ooh, what's wrong? Are you worried about something? They know you're worried or they're guessing you're worried because of the expression, the look on your face. So when we talk about a smile or a frown or things like that, those are different expressions. For example, John could tell by the expression on his mother's face that he was in big trouble.
Uh-oh, what did he do?
I don't know, but she doesn't look happy.
Oh, okay. We also saw the phrase come out, which Mike briefly talked about. If a photo or part of a photo comes out, the picture can be seen clearly, so it's not blurry. For example, if you're using a film camera, which means you need to put film in the camera, you actually won't know how the pictures will come out until you develop them or you bring them into the Photoshop and they print them out for you. Going back to our article, it says, thus, many people didn't smile when they posed, as they thought a serious expression would be easier to hold. So I guess that's pretty true, because if you were to hold a smile for maybe 30 seconds, your mouth would kind of feel a little bit tired, right? And strained, and you'd want to, stop smiling. So
Absolutely.
it might have been easier to hold a serious expression, or maybe just not to have any expression on your face.
And in fact, back then, holding still or not moving was so important. They had little clamps they would put on the back of people's necks.
Really?
So that they couldn't even turn their head a little bit. They would actually almost attach you to the chair that you're sitting in, because moving even a tiny amount, like turning your head a little bit, if there was a mosquito in the room, your whole face would just be one great gray blur. You wouldn't be able to see anything. But here's an interesting fact. The article continues. It says another factor to the long faces in old photos was that people were used to sitting for painted portraits. Yeah, before cameras, if you wanted to have a picture of your wife, husband, your grandmother, whatever in your home, you couldn't use a camera. You had to use a painter. You would hire a painter. And so the person who was being painted would sit in a chair for hours, maybe even days, while the painter did their picture. You could move a little bit, but not very much. So for people who had cameras all of a sudden, hey, you mean I only have to sit there for 5 minutes and not move? That's easy, because for the painting I had done, 10 years ago, I had to sit there for 5 days. So people were used to not moving. It wasn't such a strange thing. That is another important factor that we should think about. A factor is basically an important point, something that is relevant, something that we have to think about when considering the bigger idea or the bigger picture. For example, we could say the weather is an important factor when pilots are planning a flight. Right? When pilots are planning to fly somewhere, weather is very, very important. They can't ignore it. That's a big factor.
Yeah. If you have a long face, it means that you look sad or disappointed.
Or you're a horse.
I guess, yeah. So a long face would mean kind of like your face is kind of dragged downwards, maybe.
Oh, I got a long face. Yeah, generally it means people are sad or worried, or they're definitely not happy. And we also had this phrase, be used to. If you are used to something, that means it's normal for you. It's something that is very common, very regular. You don't think that it's very strange. For example, if you live in the city, you're used to crowded buses in the morning, right? If you live in the country, you might say, oh my gosh, there's so many people on this bus. But if you live in a busy city, well, getting around in the morning, you're used to big crowds. It's normal for you.
Our article also tells us that these artworks were rarely of smiling faces. Okay, so rarely, this is an adverb, which means not often. For example, Catherine rarely drinks coffee because it keeps her up at night.
Oh, okay.
She can't sleep when she drinks coffee.
Maybe only 10% of the time or something like that. And the article concludes by saying many people thought photographs should look similar to the old style of painting, and believed that smiling in pictures would make them look silly or foolish. Yeah, for a lot of people, having your picture or your painting done was something you would have done maybe once in your life. It was very expensive. People always dressed up in their best clothes. It's something that they would give to their children or maybe grandchildren. So imagine if you only had one picture of yourself done in your whole life, you probably wouldn't put up silly fingers or wear like a dirty t-shirt or be posing with a piece of cheese on your face or something like that to make your friends laugh. You would want to look as serious, as important, as dignified as possible, because this is the only thing people have that looks like you after you're long gone. So that's an important thing to think about, but very different from today. I think it's a lot easier to have your picture taken today. Maybe it's too easy, because people do look silly quite often. We'll be back with our chat question, though.
For You Chat.
All right, our chat question is about photos. We were talking about how back in the old days, photos were expensive and took a long time. These days, not so much. You can even take a photo with your phone. So, Angeline, what do you usually take photos of and why?
Good question. I actually had to think about this a little bit. I think most of the photos in my phone are actually of my dog.
Your dog?
Yeah,
okay.
my dog.
Okay.
Because my dog has all these really funny expressions.
Oh, that's nice.
Or he does these really funny things.
Yeah.
And so I always want to I want to take a picture of every little thing that he does because he might not do that thing again.
That's true. He's like your amusing, funny friend, and you want to capture those. Do you post the pictures, or do you just keep them for yourself, or show a few friends?
He has an Instagram account.
He, the dog,
has
his own Instagram account.
Yes, he does.
How does he use the phone with his furry little paws?
Well, I have to help him with
you
that.
help him.
Yeah, I put his paw and then upload the photo.
So it's your account and you just stuck his name on it.
Yeah, I guess.
Basically. Okay. All right. So your dog isn't that talented.
No, what do you take photos
What do I take? Not very much. Something memorable, something special. Maybe if I'm walking on the street and I see something really weird and funny. I took a picture of a guy's tattoo last year. I saw a guy standing at a tattoo. The tattoo was the shape of the country of Australia.
Cool.
But inside it was the flag of Canada. And I thought, this is so weird. If I tell someone, they won't believe me. So I took a photo of it, and I think I put it on Facebook. It's like, what's going on here? So that's the kind of thing I might take a photo of. I don't take photos of my food or friends at a party. I mean, a lot of people do that. So, and I guess I don't even think about it, really. So I don't take a lot of photos. What about you guys? Do you take a lot of photos? Why? Do you post them? Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook? Do you send them to your friends? Do you collect them? Is it sort of an artistic pursuit? Many good reasons to take photos. Have a chat about what you do, why you do it, and why you like it.
Fun facts. Today, we readily smile or pose in silly ways for the camera, but this was not always the case. In the 19th and early 20th century, people often appeared very solemn in photos. But why? A. Because those people were more unhappy. B. Because of the cameras people used then. C. Because photographers used to ask people to frown. Your answer was picture perfect if you guessed B. Cameras in the 19th century had longer exposure times, which means they needed more light to record an image. As a result, these cameras took a greater amount of time to create a picture. Anything moving during this time, such as a person's body or expression, would come out blurry. Thus, many people didn't smile when they posed, as they thought a serious expression would be easier to hold. Another factor to the long faces in old photos was that people were used to sitting for painted portraits. These artworks were rarely of smiling faces. Many people thought photographs should look similar and believed that smiling in pictures would make them look silly or foolish.
Vocabulary Review.
Century. Some of the oldest people in the world have been alive for over a century. Frown. Frank frowned when the waiter told him the restaurant was no longer serving his favorite dish. Image. The pet store has an image of a dog and a cat painted on its window. Expression. I could tell from Amelia's expression that she was excited about something. Factor. When choosing where to stay on vacation, there are several factors to consider, including price and location. Rarely. Andrew rarely takes part in winter sports, but when he does, he skis.